Welcome. Thank you all for being here. We're so excited that everyone turned up and to have Jun Lim visiting us from Seoul. This is a very well-traveled person in front of you. But we're really also proud to be one of his only 3 stores in the U.S.
Yeah.
So thank you for choosing us as your partner. We're really thrilled with the brand. It's already been hugely successful for us. And people all over the world are talking about it, so congratulations.
Yay.
We thought we'd follow the format of the last event, which was Zernel Gilly, because it was really fun to do a little Q&A. And, oh, yeah, we do kill the music.
I thought it was outside.
And June was nice enough to agree to do that.
Yeah.
So I thought I would just start by, maybe everyone would want to hear a little bit about your background in terms of, I find it kind of incredible that you went from the world of finance into art and fragrance.
Is San Francisco known for finance at all? Not at all, right?
It's technology. New York is the finance capital of the, I mean, there is finance here, but not as much as.
So I used to work as an investment banker or a stockbroker for about 12 years in the past in a lot of US firms like Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch. Then the boring days were over. I quit my job. My passion in my life were 2 things ever since I was a kid. It was perfume and it was art. So not when I was rich, I always went to this gray market cheapy shop and I bought like $20 Versace blue jeans back in like 2002 when I was in high school. That was my first ever fragrance. I still carry it, I still buy it. And then art as well. If you look at my brand's Instagram, there's a lot of artistic endeavors and collaborations here and there. It's just part of my DNA. It's something that I always want to incorporate together in how I communicate with the partners and our stakeholders and our customers. So ever since I was a kid, I went on the streets. I'm not sure if they have the same thing in San Francisco, but people on the street would sell you like $20 paintings, or if they do, I don't know.
Not everywhere.
But I used
places
to,
for it.
yeah, I used to buy those cheap paintings, and I still collect them. Now it's a bit more expensive than $20, but back then it was about those cheapy paintings. Those were what made me happy. At the same time, when I was at the investment banking and the finance industry, my expertise was in actually cosmetics. So that was my sector of coverage, cosmetics and retail. So I knew how to run the business, and I knew how the business are run. So I wanted to combine what I was good at and what my passion lied in. So there you go, it was perfume. People ask me, did you see an opportunity in the perfume industry? I always question back, what opportunity is there? Because our industry, I'm coming from Korea, so we're known for great skincare. And it's very easy to make skincare brands and to launch a brand there in my country, also for color cosmetics. You probably never heard of a prominent global brand coming from Korea, nor Japan, nor China probably, because we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the demand support locally. That's why it's very hard to start a perfume brand. So I only started this not from a business mindset, but only for the love of the perfume. So we're an independent brand, and I am confident to say I am very genuine or authentic in my perfume creations. And I really try to differentiate ourselves and to add values to niche industry, because there are too many great fragrance brands out there that I need to compete with, and I really need to be different. So yeah, that's my simple story. I'm not sure if that's interesting at all, but
It is interesting. I read, and I don't know if this is true or not, that you sold an art collection to start a perfume brand. Is that true?
yes. So that's a gap. So before I started perfume brands, you need a lot of money. It's not easy to start this from scratch, just as a corporate guy. So I had to do two things. First is go to a bank and borrow as much as possible. And second was I collected art quite a lot. Since I worked in large corporations, those were all my spendings. And perfume. Perfume was a cheaper hobby, but collecting art is not a cheap hobby. But gladly, the art collecting turned out to be a positive investment. And I literally sold everything to start this off. If you look at our flagship store, it's filled. It's people ask me, is this a gallery or is this a perfume store? Because we always have extensive number of art collections, and also by including porcelains, paintings, and all sorts of visual arts. So yeah, I mean, art has always been part of my journey in life, and it will continue to be as part of our brand DNA.
Do you do the illustration, the drawings on the Instagram?
It's my hobby as well. Drawing. We do have an artist, in-house artist.
They're pretty great.
Yeah. I know how to draw. I'm not good at it.
Knowing how and being good are two different things. I'm curious if you would just describe the overarching aesthetic of the brand. I mean, it's super striking visually, but I'm also curious about the olfactory aesthetic.
Okay. Well, starting off the visual. If you look at our bottle, it's just a stark contrast of the white and red. The bottle is inspired by our traditional drink bottles made out of porcelains. That's the inspiration behind the curvature and the colorway. And the white colorway represent the confusion culture, meaning you need to be bounded by certain standards, and the standards are quite strict within our society. And the red represent our rebellious values that goes against the confusion values. So that's why our brand colorway is white and red.
That's really cool. The confusion, that's an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah. I mean, we have certain standards. I'm sure people who shares our culture realizes that we're not, the things that I'd like to talk about, like sin or sex, it's something that we should not talk about.
Taboo.
In our set of countries. So
that was one of my next questions, was how did you pick these themes that are all about sexuality, sin, in a very playful, fun way? But I
mean, I like to talk about what others don't like to talk about. I mean, sex is just one of the many things that we like to talk about. But it was things that we just wanted to start off with because it's just eye-catching, and it's very easy to have people understand that we are a rebellious group of people. We like to also talk about, dirty topics, or something that is against the standards, like dirty heaven, for example, and sin and pleasure. I thought about this in church.
Interesting.
Yeah, in the name Dirty Heaven. When I was at church, I'm sitting down. Okay, the pastor's talking about heaven. So what does heaven await for us? I mean, what can heaven offer us? There must be some sort of pleasures. Regardless whether you're Christian or not, I mean, it was a very cool thing to think about. What heaven offers us. That was the concept behind it. And like sin and pleasure as well. Like I said, as an inspirational quote, sin is a pleasure, and pleasure is also sin. So I was thinking about that, and that's how I came up with this very contrasting set of fragrance.
It's very, very cool.
So not just sin or sex. We like to talk about even things like tattoos, for example. In our country, it's okay, but for example, Japan, you can't bath together if you're half tattooed. You know what I mean?
Because of Yakuza culture.
Yeah, it's considered forbidden. And whatever is outside the boundaries or whatever outside is the standards, I like talking about it. It's just making people pissed off. For those that are conservative, it might, give them a cringe, but I don't care.
It seems like you like talking about things that might piss people off, but then the fragrances themselves are very like fun and easy to
Oh, yeah.
wear, which is an interesting contrast. So how did you pick definitely there's a gourmand strand throughout the line, not in every fragrance, but in many of them. How did you pick your direction from the smell standpoint?
I mean, we do have two pillars, latest. Animalics and the gourmands are two of our pillars when I created. And there are certain directions that I like. For example, when you ask, I like almond notes. So many of I think almost half of the fragrances have some sort of almond notes because I asked the perfumers, put more almonds. Put more almonds. That's always the direction. But we have two lines, Dirty and Sticky. The other one is Dark and Drunk. Dirty and Sticky is more light, more easy to wear, something that you can wear every day without pissing off anybody next to you. So it's a very rounded set of fragrances that are leaned towards more gourmand, I would say. Whereas the Dark and Drunk was more edgy fragrances that are leaned towards more dark and more opulent and more animalic, I would say. So it would be targeted for your special occasions and for your dark nights. And your special occasion, yeah. So these are our two set of fragrance lines.
I definitely wanted to talk about animalics in your line because it has come up with our staff and with customers.
Yeah.
That some of the expectation for a couple of the names
Yeah.
of the fragrances, you'd think it would be going toward the skanky animalic, and they're not. And at lunch we talked about your approach to animalic. So would you mind sharing that with everyone?
Yeah, I mean, animalic, there's, if you are, unless you're a perfumer, I think you would have a hard time understanding the definition of animalic because if you hear the term animalic, I mean, you would think of Nasmato or Parisi, which is a very stinky set of amazing fragrances. But our direction of animalic is more like ambergris and musky. These are also animalic family women. Well, you could intuitively say soft animalics rather than those skanky civet or castoreum type of animalics. So the direction that I like to go is I really like ambergris notes because it just makes everything extremely sensual if it is combined with the right notes, and also muskiness as well. Not like white floral musky fragrance, but like I like stinkier musk, I would say. For example, lots were added to Sugar Addict as well, the stinkiness. And personally, we would not come up with the stinky fragrance, frankly, because I cannot stand them. But more soft, gentle animalics are what we are seeking in the future and forthcoming.
Okay. I really do like the Dirty Heaven, and you were saying there's a big amount of ambergris in that one. So if people want to smell that one, when we smell that one, you could think about that.
Yeah, we use something called gray amber, which is just a molecule of ambergris, and it's an overdose of it.
Love it. It's really good. I just have a couple more questions. You were also at lunch talking a little bit about how you work with so many perfumers and how you work with them.
So, for me, I don't really care about the name of the perfumer. I work with great perfumers like Oliver Cresp and Nathan Dorson, but it doesn't, hit me at all in terms of decision. I write a brief about what it is that I want to create, overall directions, the notes, the inspirations, and how I want it to be done. What we pride in is we don't have a financial budget, so we just said you can make it as expensive as you want. We will try to save money on the rest, try to make it as expensive as you want, or as exquisite as you want. So, in terms of juice, we are quite serious and we are authentic in our endeavors, like I said. And I hand in this brief to about 15 fragrance houses, including the big houses like I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but Firmenich, IFF, Givaudan, all these big name houses. And then there are smaller houses that has boutique studios in Rome or Milano or Paris or all these other cities, even in Japan as well. So I work with literally 100 to 120 perfumers. And when I hand in all the brief, they submit their proposals. So I get about, on on a weekly basis, I get submissions at least 100 to 200 samples on a weekly basis. I test them all throughout the day and see if I like anything. So that's the basis to start off with. If I like something, I choose about 5 to 10 perfumers and then work on a couple of changes, and then the final one is pick if I like anything. So that's how I have been working for all the fragrances. So Dirty Rice, for example, took about 2 years to develop. Well, these ones are about average of 8 to 12 months. So it's not. It could be easy to develop perfume if you want, but it's very hard. You can make it very hard. So.
Yeah, you said you sometimes have a 2-year development phase where you're still trying to modify that perfume until you really love it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's true what he's saying about not caring if it's a big famous perfumer or a smaller perfumer. We're talking about a very famous perfumer who I won't name, who has submitted many fragrances against the briefs and still hasn't been selected yet.
I mean, for example, one of the fragrances, out of the 3, 2 of them are really famous perfumer. One is just a fresh graduate out of undergrad. So really, I don't care if the perfumer is Dominique Ropion. I don't really care. Or not that I don't respect them. I respect everybody, but it's just the juice is whether it fits into the boundary of our DNA and into our brief. That's what matters to us.
Okay, just 2 more questions and then we'll do some smelling. So the brand came out the gate really strong. So the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, this brand has like a vibrating energy around it. Like this is potentially going to be something big. And I'm curious, is that your plan? Do you want this to be a really big brand? And if so, what's your vision? In very short, what's your vision? But also, how's it been going?
It's been 18 months since we launched, so we're a very, very young brand. But business-wise, we have grown quite substantially, and I can confidently say we are bigger than 99% of the brands here.
In 18 months.
Yeah. Very to be humble part because I know their businesses. So it's been a very successful 18 months. But do we want to keep this pace? No, because as a business minded person, because I graduated from both the undergrad, grad school, and PhD in business as well, and learning all about businesses is that there's a cycle. You're not going to be big forever. So I want to stay niche, but I want to have a mass appeal at the same time. So we're never going to be at Sephora. Sephora emails us literally every month, whether we want to be present in their 2,000 shops around the world. We don't even have the capacity to be in Sephora. We're not interested. Sephora or Douglas. We would continue to be in the niche and luxury perfumeries like Ministry of Scent around the world. If we can continue the growth in shop as same store sales, we would love it. But we're not planning on expanding ourselves to 2,000 doors in the world. So we will be niche, but we want to be the best brand in Ministry of Scent.
Thank you. You're definitely one of them. It's for sure. And growing fast. I was telling Jun when we have to do that thing where we look at the numbers and seeing the growth, even just the last 3 months, his brand jumped up into the top 5 in the 3 months. So pretty exciting for us. Okay, so we're going to talk about the new perfumes and then give everyone a chance to ask questions also. But first I want to know which of them you're wearing the most.
Dirty Heaven is something that I wear the most. It's just so pleasant. And this is the one that I'm talking about. That's
you guys want to spray Dirty Heaven? We'll start with that then.
The perfumer that just graduated out of undergrad. This is my favorite. She's like 24. I just love it.
So the guys will pass out the strip. I know probably most of you have smelled them, but we'll smell them while we talk.
But like I said, the inspiration was very simple. When I was at church, what pleasures are there in heaven? And what dirty pleasures await for us?
What dirty.
And what notes, what notes
what I wanna
describe that in the fragrance?
Personally, I wanted to use overdose of saffron because I think saffron is what can really describe heaven. Saffron, some people, saffron itself, the molecule itself, might smell very plasticky, but if it is combined with the right notes, it smells just gorgeous. So we use lots of saffron, tonka bean, and also gray amber, ambergris.
This is dirty heaven.
It's a very easy to wear fragrance that is very pleasant.
I want to know, where do you get the dirty part? Because when you think of heaven, you know, you're like, ooh, exciting,
No, the
lovely.
ambergris part is the dirty part. So
Okay.
if you smell ambergris on its own, you'll see what I mean. But it's a very sticky, sweaty.
It's the whale, the part of the whale,
Yeah.
right? Something to do with the whale.
Yes, something
It's the whales, sperm whales produce a viscous fluid to protect their stomachs from when they eat cuttlefish, who have these little shell-like beaks. It protects the whale's stomach and intestine. But luckily, we don't take it from whales. They actually eject it from their bodies.
Yes.
It kind of forms like a gallstone almost.
In one way or the other.
Well, no one's
There's
exactly
different
sure. They
levels.
used to think it was whale vomit, but now they think it goes out the other way probably.
Yeah.
But it generally needs to float and cure in the ocean for a while before it's usable. So you don't like raw ambergris,
No.
it's nasty.
Yeah.
If you guys are all local, go to Berkeley to Mandy Eftel's museum, Eftelier's museum. It's a
Yeah.
perfume museum, it's amazing, and she's got
Really?
real ambergris, there are different stages. And you'll see like the older ambergris, the gray ambergris, is very sweet and a little salty, it's beautiful, but the black ambergris is
Oh, yeah.
just,
Mm.
wow.
Yeah, different levels.
She like ran right up and put some on me, and I was like, okay. Did everyone get a strip? Yeah.
Yes.
But it's a very dirty note, the
Okay.
gray amber itself.
Okay.
But it's like that kind of thing where it takes something pretty to beautiful
Yeah,
when you add it.
exactly.
So then what do you want to smell next?
Ooh, let's go. Sin and Pleasure should be last. I think it's strongest.
It's true.
Sugar
Sugar
Addict.
Addict?
So we have
Say
this
Sugar Addict.
fragrance called Sugar Addict. It's a fragrance sweetener. It's a fragrance sweetener, meaning that it's sweet fragrance. So, like I explained to a few people, I appreciate all the fragrances, but I cannot wear them all because they're too stinky for me. And you just wish that they were sweeter to be wearable. So, for example, like T-Rex from Zoologist smells too artisanal for me, or smells too difficult for me. So, I always thought to myself, I wish the fragrance was sweeter. I wish the fragrance was sweeter. So, that's the idea that I came up with. And it's just a infusion of sugary notes. Sugar, sugar cane, caramel, vanilla, and caramel,
Yummy.
and cocoa. So,
I know what I would do with it. Patchouli oil, sugar addict. Patchouli oil, sugar addict.
more darker notes, and sugar addicts would go perfectly together.
Dark notes and
Yeah.
sugar.
So like oud or leathery or skanky notes go well together.
Yeah.
But because we are concentrated at about 35% for this one, make sure you spray it far away and make sure it is combined with something that is on par in terms of concentration if you want to combine it together. Because if you combine it with fragrances that are weaker, you don't really have weaker fragrances, right?
We have a few,
But
but yeah, I could see it would take over.
yeah.
And then you said at the scent bar, Lucky Scent event on Thursday, it was the first one that sold out.
Oh yeah, it just, I think it was quite crazy, I don't know. I think people really found it interesting, very different from the typical gourmand fragrance. And we added a lot of muskiness on the bottom to make it not just long lasting, but to be very pleasant on its own as a skin scent. So you can wear it on its own perfectly.
Yeah, and I've had that before where I have something that's just not quite there. Usually,
Yeah.
I'm a patchouli addict, and it's usually a patchouli fragrance that I wish was just a little bit sweeter. All right, then, Sin and Pleasure. You guys ready to? Does anyone have questions so far? Yeah?
Yeah, a few.
Oh,
Oh,
good. Go for it. While they're spraying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So first one, you were talking about people asked you if you found an opportunity in the market. I guess more so, what was the turning point where you're like, hey, I'm going to jump in? Like, what made you switch out of the finance to perfume?
It was no like switch on and off. It was, I always wanted to do it.
But what was that one moment where you're like, hey, I'm going to leave it and go all in on perfume?
I think when I had enough money.
Yeah.
Realistically speaking,
I get that.
start a brand if you don't have it, you can only borrow so much from the bank.
This reminds me of
Similar question, do you still have any
candy cane.
Yeah, I still, if you come to our office in Korea, we are filled with paintings and with different artists. I don't really care, like how I treat the juices. I don't really care about the name of the artist, cheap or expensive, whatever is the nature of it.
I'm just thinking a way that you would share it with the general public.
Yeah.
In their store, you were talking about your store in
No, not
Seoul.
store. My store, we have art exhibitions with collaborative artists. So it's not just original painting of somebody. It's always a collaborative art. So art is for us, it's a delicate way of communicating our brand mission and our brand values. It's to rebel. And we always pick rebellious artists. And we make collaborative art pieces and we sell them as well.
That's what I was gonna ask,
Yeah.
so you do sell them?
Yeah, we sell art
online, or
pieces.
would be able to see something?
If you visit our online website, we sell dishes. It's not, we're not like consignment based. It's our own dishes. We sell dishes, we sell porcelain pieces made from very popular artists. We sell paintings as well. So yeah, we want to be a brand that genuinely appreciates art and communicates through art.
Good question, Mary.
I knew it.
So we'll go back to your other questions, but Sin and Pleasure, let's talk about that first.
Okay, Sin and Pleasure. I think
This one definitely has, to me, the most prominent almond note.
I love almond, but this is a leather dipped in caramel. So simplistically put, and inspiration was, I always think to myself, sin's a pleasure, and pleasure on the other hand is a sin. So that's the quote that I always have been thinking to myself, and I wanted to make a perfume about it. So sin is represented by the leather, which is a very dark notes on its own, and making it dipped into the gourmand notes. I wanted to visualize the contrast between the sin and pleasure. This pleasure, the sugary, represented by the sugary notes. So that was the inspiration behind it. And it's this one would fit into our dark and drunk collection because it's a bit edgy versus the other two, because it's got a bit of a leathery and oudness in it, whereas the first two would fit into our dirty and sticky. Yes, dirty and sticky collection. Because it's very easy to wear.
The names are so good. Sugar Addict, when we saw that name, we were like, that's just so good. It's like, you know what that perfume, think you know what it
You
is.
think you know.
It's a pretty good job of like communicating the title with the fragrance.
I mean, the way people always, how do you come up with a name? And I just think, I mean, I respect our French people, but I don't understand anything. I don't understand what that means. You know what I mean? If I buy perfume, I want to get a sense of it. I want more imaginations, but So I wanted to come up with names that does not marginalize our imaginations. So it's very easy to remember, very intuitive, yet very fun and provocative. So that is our way of naming the fragrances. Because sugar addicts, I don't think you would forget it.
No.
And Scent and Pleasure as well, I think. Very easy to remember.
All three of these, I mean,
All three.
are really, really strong. And then you had more questions.
I do. So you said you've been 18 months, you've been up and running. Are there any scents you'd go back, tweak a little bit, and reissue in the future, you think?
Of course, always. I mean, when business grows, there's always trial and errors. There's tons of them still. I'm always trying to fix them with Antonia as well.
Well, he just did make a big change, actually. The concentration of the fragrance is just boosted by what, 10%?
No, it used to, by 14% points. So it used to be about 20 to 25% in the previous batches. Now the latest batches are about 35%, which is stronger than most of the fragrances here. But in the beginning, I thought it would be good enough, but I wasn't satisfied enough. And then we made a big change, a big jump into the X-ray, or so-called. I don't like to call it X-ray because I think it's just a marketing term. I don't want it to. We did change our price slightly, really marginally, but I don't want to put it as an X-ray and give it like $80 boost versus the previous. So that's what I did with the latest, and business-wise, we always have problems. Yeah, the supply chain, because I gave you a big number, but to grow at that pace, it's not easy because we need to hire so many more people, and then our supply chain gets crazy because we cannot meet the demands, and we don't know where to source additional products. So it's always a troublesome path of business. We enjoy it.
It's a really controversial question, right? Because a lot of times people get really upset when things get reformulated or changed.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, it's true. It's like poor John at Kerosene. This rumor went around, spread by one person on the internet, that he had reformulated something which he hadn't.
Yeah.
And it's taken a lot of time to convince people that it's not. But so yeah, it's you have to be pretty confident to go and do that. But you're right. Like when you're starting out, it's inevitable. You want to keep getting better as you go.
Sooner than later. Because it's only been 18 months, and for me as well, as a perfume lover and nerd myself, I just want the perfume to last. Right? You pay big bucks on it, and it's got to worth it.
Yeah.
And I hate the brands that don't last. I don't want to mention anything.
You're like, you don't want to be one of those brands either. Did you have another
I
question?
have one more.
Yeah.
So how many briefs do you have out at one time for new perfumes and fragrances?
It's one, but my brief sometimes very long. Sometimes I just wake up in the middle of the night and write something, type by like 2 sentences, send it to me. So there's no, we call it French carte blanche. We just write whatever the shit we want, whatever comes to our minds. Like Scent and Pleasure and Dirty Heaven, when I work on the weekends, I just woke up in the middle of the night after church and then just wrote briefs about it. So there's no fixed, because we're an independent brand, we don't really have a deep 5-year plan down the road. Whatever comes to my mind spontaneously, we just release it. So yeah, like recently, for example, I was sitting at this cafe in Japan, and they gave us this amazing banana parfait. And I said, I want to make a scent around this. This is just how I come up with it. So, just a sneak peek, but yeah, we're working on banana fragrance. Yeah.
That's exciting because it's rare to see that.
Yeah, it is. And we really want to do something that is different because there are too many beautiful fragrances out there, and we don't want to be remotely similar. We want to be really different, not just cliche way different where we want to differentiate ourselves. We really want our consumers to feel that we're one of the class, we're one of the categories. We try.
Does anyone else have questions?
Just one. Do you see yourself maybe helping others down the line develop their own brands? Like you being that company now? Like you had people pour into you, now you're going to be that brand.
Yeah,
course, in
I
tennis.
love helping my locals because, I mean, from my country, there has never been, or our region in general, there has never been a prominent brand in perfumery. So whoever asks us for advices or for agency or whatever help that they need or introduction, I provide it. Like for example, you know, there are some entrepreneurs that want to start a perfume brand but don't know where to get the juices, because the juice companies, their mindset is if you're not big, they don't even reply to you. For example, if you reach out to Feminist an email, 100% they will not reply to you. IFF, Givaudan, they will not care a single thing. If you're not I mean, it's their mindset, but if you're not a big figure in the perfume industry, you know, they will not help you at all. So I give introductions to all my friends or all the entrepreneurs that want to start the business.
Nice.
Yeah. Like smaller studios, larger studios. Because introductions, I mean, I'm their big client, so they need to listen to me.
Of course.
For the
Well, you were even talking earlier about helping some of the American indies do
Yeah.
distribution in
Yeah.
Korea as well. So
Yeah.
giving it back to the community. Exactly.
I try because, like I said, our industry is small on its own. It's not really as big as skincare or color cosmetics. So I always tell to those that seek help, I don't see you as a competition. We're too small to care. That's my mindset.
Well, it's better anyway when brands can support one another.
Yeah.
For sure. So, are there more questions? And also, people should feel very welcome. We've got another ways to go until the event's over. So feel free to circulate up here. Talk to June one-on-one.
Yes.
Come try on the perfumes, have another drink, hang out with us.